أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم مصطفى محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين سيما بقية الله في الأرضين ولعن الله أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. For the acceptance of our grief and of our azab, of our mourning, please recite aloud salawat. For the victory of all the mujahideen, the resistance fighters, for Maraj Karam, and for the leader of Islamic revolution, please recite another louder salawat. For the hastening of the reappearance of Imam of our time, and for us to be included amongst his supporters and among his helpers, please recite a loudest salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajah. I will have only 30 minutes to address my concerns, and since it's a day of Tasu'a, I was requested to talk about the musibah. And sure enough, I will be talking about the musibah, but in the true sense of the word. We are going through the musibah right now. We have been going through the musibah since last 14 centuries. What has been the musibah? If I asked you, what was the biggest musibah for Imam Hussein? Do you think the biggest musibah for him was to be slain in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Was it that he had to drown in his own pool of blood? Was that the biggest musibah for Imam Hussein alayhi salam? Was it that he had to sacrifice everything for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Was that the musibah for Imam al-Hussein? What was the musibah? Because if we say that if that was the musibah, we know that Imam Hussein and all of our Imam alayhi salam, they have been the manifestation of all the Quranic ayat. They are Quranic natiq. They testify and they implement everything which is written in Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Quran, وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ يُرْزَقُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying in Quran that do not consider those who have been killed in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as dead. But nay, they are alive, they are getting their sustenance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we look at this ayah, it seems like shahada, getting martyred in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is the best of the prices. So it cannot be a musibah. It cannot be a musibah. And someone, this is talking about anyone. This is talking about anyone who gets killed in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What about someone who's the chief of the martyrs? Sayyid al-Shuhada. So for an ordinary shaheed, it is already the biggest price. But someone who is the chief of the Shuhada, could this prize be a musibah? Something for us to think about. What was the musibah of Imam Hussein? Was it that he had to give up Ali Akbar, his youth, in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? No, that was not the musibah. We want to commemorate the musibah of Abu Abdullah, but we would have to cry on things that he was crying for. We have to remove those things that he wanted to remove from the society. That was a musibah for him. He loved Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He asked for this night. He asked for this night as a respite so that he can do supplication. He can connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He can connect even more with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What does Allah say in Quran? إِنَّ اللَّهَ اشْتَرَى مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ أَنفُسَهُمْ وَأَمْوَالَهُم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala buys from the believer. Buys from the believer what? Their lives and their wealth. And he is talking about just ordinary believers. What does that mean? How is he buying? He is buying something which is going to be wasted away anyways. It is inevitable. Every passing moment, every passing hour, we are getting closer to that inevitable, which is grave. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that I am going to buy from you this product which is going to be wasted anyways. And he's telling the believers, this is what I'm going to buy. So for Imam Hussein, what was it? What was the musibah? We would have to see that what did he stand for? We would have to identify things that caused him grief. When we are gathering and commemorating the grief, the tragedy of Karbala, yes, we have this dark page of extreme oppression that happened on Ahlul Bayt. Extreme oppression on Ahlul Bayt. But there is another page of Karbala that I want us to focus on. Without undermining this page, of course we should commemorate. Why is it that we are still alive and our Imam got martyred in such way? Why has there been a separation of 14 centuries? What is it that I am doing for the Hussein of the time? Have I left my Imam also abandoned? That is the musibah. That is the musibah. What did Imam Hussein stand for? Without a shadow of a doubt, if I was to ask anyone that what did Imam Hussein stand for, without a shadow of a doubt, they will say that he stood up for justice. He stood up for justice. He stood up for humanity. He wanted to implement Allah's laws on this earth. He wanted to fight against the oppressor and wanted to stand with the oppressed. This was his musibah. His musibah was the haram was being made halal and halal was being made haram. That was his musibah. That was his problem. If I am commemorating Imam Hussein and I am not even applying those in my personal life, then what are these tears worth for? What is this musibah worth for? 9th of Muharram, think about what happened. Imam Hussein took the allegiance away from the companions, told them that if they want to leave, they can leave. Did he say that? He even guaranteed them Jannah. He even guaranteed them Jannah. But they stood, those were the Shias, because they understood what was his musibah. they understood to take a stance against the oppressor, to rise against the oppressor, to do the uprising against the oppressor. These tears, yes, they are the tears of Abu Abdullah, but these tears, do not mistake them with a sign of weakness. But these tears that we shed for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, they are the manifestation of the revolution that has been running in the blood of the Mu'mineen since last 14 centuries. These tears, that's the purpose that they should serve. What was the musibah of Imam Hussein? We say that it was the lack of justice. When we see Karbala is being repeated, do we not say kullu yawmin ashura wa kullu ardin Karbala? Do we not say that? Do we not believe in that? Every time you see an oppressor oppressing an oppressed, a weak, for us to stay indifferent, Imam's problem, Imam's musibah was for majority to stay indifferent, for them to stay neutral. We have in Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, defining the qualities of the mu'mineen, alladhina amanu wa hajaru wa jahadu fi sabilillah. With what? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, is those who do the migration, who believe, who embrace Iman, who do the migration, who go for jihad. With what? بِأَمْوَالِهِمْ وَأَنفُسِهِمْ. With their wealth and with their lives. Allah says what? أَعْظَمَ دَرَجَةً إِنَّ اللَّهِ. They have a higher rank near Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْفَائِزُونَ. And they are the victorious ones. They are the victorious ones. When we see today Ashura is being committed in Gaza, and for people, for us to be indifferent about it, for us to be indifferent about it, for us not to raise our voice against the oppressor, does that mean that I have taken the lesson from Karbala? Does that mean I have taken the lesson? If I'm not able to implement justice in my own household, forget about going outside, in my own household, if I'm not observing the rights of my family members, of my community members, have I taken lessons from Karbala? What is the musibah of Imam Hussein? Understand this. Yes, we cry over the atrocities that were committed on Imam Hussein. But the enemies of Imam Hussein were doing exactly what they were supposed to do. They were supposed to do that. You don't complain to the enemies. You don't complain to the enemies. The complaint is from your own people for not standing up, for not backing you up. Musibah of Imam Hussein. I am reciting Musibah. I am reciting. The Musibah is on us that we haven't learned from Imam Hussein. After 14 centuries, we see what's happening in the world. We see what's happening in the world. Would Imam, I ask you this, and I want us to ponder over it. Would Imam Hussein want you to just cry and shed your tears and stay indifferent with oppression that's happening all over the world right now? Imam Hussein, we read in Ziyarat Ashura, Inni silmun liman salamakum wa harbu liman harabakum ila yawm al-qiyamah. What does that mean, ila yawm al-qiyamah? Am I supposed to hate Shimar of 61st Hijrah till Yawm al-Qiyamah? What is that dead body? He is already getting punished. What am I supposed to do? Why does it say ila yawm al-qiyamah? I ask you this. Number one reason, number one musibah of Imam Hussein was haram was being halal, halal was being haram. The murder, assassination of pure souls was being committed. These are Imam Hussein's words, not mine. These are Imam Hussein's words. Think about the words, think about the complaint that Imam Hussein had. It's available. What did Imam Hussein did their uprising for? And those who were fighting, who were taking a stance against the oppressor, they were not being helped. They were not being helped. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in another part, defining the qualities of the believers. Another place where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَهَاجَرُوا وَجَاهَدُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَالَّذِينَ آوَوا وَنَصَرُوا. That again, those who believed, did the migration, did jihad in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and those who provided shelter to who? Who are they providing shelter to? To those who are being oppressed. To those who are being oppressed. Those who are fighting against the oppressor. وَنَصَرُوا. And those who helped those who were standing against the oppressor. أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الْحَقَّ. That they are the ones who are the true believers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, we have a lot of responsibility in this country. And I request you, I demand and request both at the same time, that if we are walking out from these majalis without realizing our responsibility towards Imam Hussein, there is no point of attending these majalis. There's no point of attending these majalis. Imam Hussein talked about, fought for those who were being killed by the oppressive government. Today, we have in our community, people are being picked. People are being detained. These are real-time issues in your community. From what I've heard in the last 10 days, in your community, people have been picked. What have we done? Have we provided them with legal services? Is it not وَالَّذِينَ آوَوا وَنَصَرُوا? Those who provide help. This is real-time issue. Our Shia Mu'mineen, our Muslimin are being held. Those who are not even Muslimin, for the sake of Gaza, they are being detained. Unfortunately, those who do not have Imam Hussein, they are on the forefront of their stance against the oppressors. But those who have Karbala, they are still thinking, they're still pondering, and they're still holding these majalis. Nothing against the majalis, but are we getting benefited from them? Are we learning the lessons from them? How many times have we came out to protest against what they are doing? Forget about Gaza, don't even go outside the country. Of what is happening in this country. How people get detained for speaking out. How people get detained illegally. We have examples. How many of us came out? Can a Husseini stay silent in the face of oppression? Can Husseini stay silent? Know this Ashura is a phenomenon. It's an ongoing phenomenon. Karbala is an ongoing phenomenon. That's why we say, ila yawm al-qiyamah. That's why we say, what is going to happen? What's the most that's going to happen? We are going to be under radar, we are going to be harassed. Did Imam Hussein fear from getting harassed? The Shias, if they are not getting valor, one of the other things that we should get from Ashura, from Taswa, is bravery, valor, fearlessness, not fearing anyone but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Should we not get that? If we are not getting fearlessness from Karbala's story, then I don't know what have we been doing throughout our lives. Imam Hussein was told, was harassed, but he did not fear. His companions didn't fear. They were told to leave. And what did they respond with? Even if we get killed and burned into ashes and brought back to life again, and it happens 70 times, we will never abandon you, O Hussein ibn Ali, O our Imam. We will never abandon you. Can I say this today? Can I say this with the core of my existence, that doesn't matter what happens to me, I'm always going to stand up for justice. I am going to stand against the oppressor. I am going to stand with the oppressed. I am going to help the oppressed. I am going to work towards maintaining justice in society, in my family, in my community. Imam Hussein fought for unity. MashaAllah, I see different centers coming over here. This form of unity should be 24/7 throughout the year. Can I make the promise to Imam Hussein that whatever happens, I will never abandon you, O Abu Abdullah? Can I say that? Imam Hussein, and try to feel these words. Try to feel these words. When he was given the option of either paying allegiance to the Taghut of the time, to the Yazid of the time, to either pay allegiance or to fight, what did he say? Ala ta'i ibn ta'i قد ركز بين اثنتين بين سلة وذلة حيهات من ذلة. This is what Imam Hussein said. This was his response. So yes, we all have our fears. The Kufians did too. Think about it. I am not going to talk about these things because my status is on the line or I'm going to be harassed. Kufians also said that, who is going to help my family if I get killed in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? That's exactly what they said to Muslims. That's exactly what they said to Muslims. That what's going to happen? This was the musibah of Abu Abdullah. This was the musibah, that he was left alone. The son of Zahra, the son of Ali, was left alone. The man was left alone in the plains of Karbala. Last night we talked about the musibah of Abu Fadl Abbas, that how he was sharing the pain of Abu Abdullah. Companions went one by one. Family members went one by one. To a point that even Abu Fadl Abbas, with his arms cut, with his eyes pierced in the arrow, even he left this mortal world. He succumbed to his injuries and he received martyrdom. But then there was this one pain that Abu Fadl Abbas could not share with Imam Hussein. What was that pain? There came a point There came a point that Imam Hussein looked towards his right, looked towards his left. He asked, Hal min nasir yanzurni? Is there anyone who can help me? Our Imam of the time is asking us, Hal min nasir yanzurni? Is there anyone who can help the Hussein of the time? And there was no one left except when he had absolutely nothing left to offer in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There was this one more sacrifice, one more offering that he wanted to give in the way of Allah. And that sacrifice was of Aliul Asghar, the 6-month-old infant. 6-month-old infant. This 6-month-old infant was thirsty. All he needed were a couple of drops of water to quench his thirst. But Abdullah had to bring this infant on the plains of Karbala to see one more time if anyone is going to come towards the camp of the truth. This is what we call Itmam al-Hujjah, that all the Hujjah was complete, all the signs were available for those who wanted to change the camp. We are living through those times. We are also seeing that. Abdullah al-Hussein brought his 6-month-old and said, "Oh, you enemies, if you have anything against me, we can deal with it. But what is the mistake of this 6-month-old? I asked after 14 centuries, we asked after 14 centuries, what kind of wretched heart these people had? That 6-month-old infant is being brought in the plains of Karbala in this heat. For him to be quenched, just for him to be quenched with his thirst." He brought, when the army of the enemy saw that there, Imam Hussein has brought, there was this chaos in the army of the enemy. People started crying. People started saying that, there's nothing like that. What oppression, what crime has he made, what this 6-month-old has made? And this is when Umar ibn Saad ordered this wretched person, Karbala, told him to cut off Imam Hussein's kalam, to cut off his speech, to cut off his sermon. Karbala, with his 3-pronged arrow, he pointed at the neck of the 6-month. We don't know how. We all know that the 6-month-old does not really have a proper neck. Whenever we are holding an infant, we are told to be careful because of his neck. Their necks are so sensitive. I don't know how did that arrow pierce through the neck of 6-month-old. What would have gone through the heart of Abdullah? Looking at his 6-month-old, he had brought him so that his thirst could be quenched, but all he got was the blood of his 6-month-old. But this is what you call the epitome of submission. He doesn't know now. The 6-month-old has been slaughtered with this 3-pronged arrow. He doesn't know how would he go to his mother? With what face would he face his mother? He goes, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Rabbi qadai wa taslim bi amri. He's walking back and forth. He's pacing back and forth. How does he show? What does he do?